If you've been around the channel for a while, you may be wondering what has taken so long to get to this one. Well, to put it bluntly, I started this right after the next gen update originally came out, and the game was just broken beyond all belief, for lack of a better way to put it. So after a few hours I ended up shelving the idea and didn't pick it back up again until the update in May, nearly half a year later, which seems to have fixed most of the problems. Anyway, can you beat Fallout 4 with the Broadsider? The Broadsider is a modified ye old timey ship cannon that can be carried around by a person and used to expense justice. It has a damage output comparable to that of a missile launcher. So, just why is this considered a challenge and highly requested? Beats me, but if I had to guess, as someone who has only messed around with the weapon briefly in the past, I'm going to assume it's going to come down to ammo being rather scarce, as cannonballs aren't typically something you'll just find lying around. And secondly, just because it's a fun concept for a weapon, and something people want to see me mess around with. After all, the Shredder is also one of the strongest weapons in all of Fallout 4, and therefore one of the fastest runs I have ever done, yet it is also one of my most popular videos despite how it quickly turned everything into giblet jam. Sometimes we just want to swiftly and efficiently watch the world burn, and I think that's rather beautiful. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. At the vault exit, and here's our stats. Strength at 5 for big guns, so we can go overboard with the damage despite the Broadsider already being ridiculously strong. Endurance for more health and damage resistances. Charisma at 3 for Lone Wanderer for that same reason. Then finally Intelligence at 9 for more XP gains, as well as something specifically tied to the Broadsider's quest, which you shall see in a moment. Some of you may have noticed I forgot to take Perception to get the Demolitions Expert perk to also increase its damage. That is simply because I did not know that that also increased its damage. Do not worry, I rectify that mistake later. Much later, but later. That's another thing for those that are unaware, the Broadsider is a quest reward, so I'll need to not only make my way to where it begins unarmed, but I'll need to complete said quest without any weapons. Nothing of worth in Sanctuary for the time, so I simply mark it on the map for fast travel purposes, then leave. I also grabbed the 2 frag grenades in the trash can on my way out of town, as they'll sell for a good price later. Our destination is none other than the USS Constitution, which is a little northeast of Diamond City, or more specifically in the area near Bunker Hill and the Old North Church. 2 areas I am very familiar with for differing reasons. I mark as many locations as I can on the way for some extra XP, although me being me, distractions do occur. Witnessed the most unenthusiastic raider in Concord who seemingly showed very little interest in chasing down this unarmed prey despite me only moving at a brisk pace. Then right after I agreed to help Trudy deal with Wolfgang, by which I mean I kinda just moseyed around the area until she finally got her act together and filled both him and Simone full of holes. Still got my reward money though and a level out of it, so go me. Onwards to the ship, and I make a point to not mark the Corvega assembly plant on the map. The reason being that the quest we need to do for the weapon has a task that picks a random area for you to explore and get a MacGuffin that the robots need. Corvega is one of the locations you could be sent to, but from my experience in the past, if you have already marked it on the map, then the game will choose another. Basically, I am avoiding it because I wish to be sent there, as it is a very small area to run through, and getting to the container at the end where the item will be held is incredibly simple to do. Anywho, I keep travelling, marking and running from fights until eventually ending up at Bunker Hill. Nothing for me here right now, but who knows, maybe they'll sell cannonballs in the future. They won't. The downtown Boston area can be kind of a cluttered mess at times. Fortunately, I think I have an idea of where we need to go. I speak with a lookout who sends me to talk with Captain Ironsides on the top deck, whom I kept mistakenly referring to in my notes as Ironhide as I am a content-starved Transformers fanboy. Anyway, Wheels here needs help repairing this ship so it can make its final maiden voyage and get back in the ocean. And this is why we put such an emphasis on intelligence during character creation. Try not to be alarmed by this, as it's rather out of character for Fallout 4's base game, but there are actual skill checks in this quest. And like, proper ones too. Using my big brain, I can skip some more mundane tasks that would have required me to leave and hunt down extra parts for the ship. It's not much in the grand scheme of things, but having them here helps this quest stand out a lot. You know, despite the fact I'm on a boat with robots who think they're part of the Navy from the 1800s. 2 of the tasks do still require me to leave. One is stealing the guidance chip from a nearby band of scavengers. Simple enough, and while they do turn hostile, I can simply just retreat to the safety of the ship while the crew deals with them. Then the last part is, of course, finding the turbo pumps, which are the things I mentioned before that get sent off to a random location. The strategy then pays off as it does indeed spawn inside the Corvega assembly plant. Level 1 or 2 raiders struggle to lay on the damage to slow me down, so I'm in and out within a minute after darting past a lot of them to get to my prize. None of them attempted to pursue me for more than a few seconds, so I can then fast travel back for the final segment of the quest. The scavengers from before have got bolder and decided to attack the ship head on. Long story short, they are absolutely no match for Ironsides and his crew. Hell, Ironsides on his own probably could have dealt with a lot of them, considering he is a sentry bot after all, and this is very early game. Once the assault has been broken, we are handed the Broadsider along with 24 cannonballs. While it may inflict 108 damage, enough to kill just about anything at this level with a single shot, lest we only want to shoot 24 different enemies this run, we are going to need to find more ammo fast. The quest isn't quite over yet though, as we still need to set them on course. On the way to do just that, I noticed that 2 of the scavengers are still kicking, so I let them be our first test subjects, so to speak. Something I was not aware of is that on impact, the cannonball seems to do damage in a small area around the impact, as I was able to take out both of them with a single ball. It's good to know that there's ways to save ammo with this thing. I use a nearby workbench to peek at the available upgrades, and to be honest, none of them seem all that important for now, just like minor adjustments. Back to finishing the quest, I head on over to the nearby circuit breaker and flip the switch, to which I then watch in horror as the robots gracefully fly their way straight into Silent Hill. I rush to check on their well-being and run into yet another band of raiders. At least for once I had the means to deal with them. As expected, base raiders do not stand a chance at taking a hit from this monster. Some of the higher ranks may just about shrug it off, but are typically dealt with swiftly after. Like all my Fallout 4 weapon-restricted runs, it should be noted that gun bashing is not allowed. I have a full video dedicated to just that for this reason. This is about the weapon itself and the pros and cons it brings to the table, not about whether it's heavy enough to cave a man's skull in with its frame. Outside of the ammo issue, another minor annoyance becomes clear. That is, it seemed rather difficult to line up shots with it from a distance. Always felt like the ball was going slightly to the left or right of where I was aiming. Not to mention, it obviously has some severe bullet drop. Typically, this would not be a problem with other big guns like the missile launcher or Fat Man, but seeing as I typically need to hit my target with the Broadsider, it was a slight issue. Granted, it's not going to be a problem on bigger enemies and in close quarters encounters. With them out of the way, I find the building the ship docked in, and after riding the elevator to the top, can speak with the captain one final time. He is honestly rather pleased about the whole situation and even promotes me and gives me a new hat to boot. This is never coming off, and at this very moment, I decided to side with the Minutemen for now so that I may get some matching clothes. Well, the world is my oyster, and I kinda had no idea what to do. I feel the most important thing right now is to find a steady supply of cannonballs before I start broadsiding half the Commonwealth. First up was Good Neighbor. It was closer than Diamond City, and the locals are always willing to give you a warm welcome.
Hey, hold up there. First time in Good Neighbor?
Yes.
I spy a familiar face, once more trying to yank me towards that church, but instead I head over to Cleo's, where I am delighted to find she is selling 6 whole cannonballs. Arturo in Diamond City had another 3 going, and I felt so good about the situation that I didn't mind using one to disarm Kyle so that I may save all the drywall in the surrounding area. Perhaps this ammo problem won't be as bad as I thought.
1 hour later.
Well, after many trips back to Sanctuary to rest for multiple days, no matter how many times I tried, the vendors just refused to restock their inventory. Alright, so up until now I was recorded in and around November 2025, and from here on was recorded in end of May/June 2026. The plan was to wait for an update in the hope that it would fix things, and as it turned out, there was a decent one in May. Long story short, I think it fixed the vendors not properly refreshing, but know that the cannonballs are still remarkably rare, that's just how they are. I will say it only took a couple of rests to get Arturo to sell some more, so all hope is not entirely lost. While continuing on this never-ending shopping spree, I decided there was one set of traders that typically have lots of great gear that I hadn't even tried yet. That being those in the market in Nuka-World. To hell with it, it beats repeatedly waiting and fast traveling just hoping for a select few to be up for grabs. Recommended level to start the DLC is 30, but nothing stops you from just running straight to the monorail and starting it whenever. Well, there are a bunch of high-level raiders, but I was able to mostly sneak by the lot of them barring the Assaultron. I have no idea why it did not emulsify me in seconds, or why the Broadsider inflicted as much damage as it did here, but I am choosing to just roll with it and assume the game is taking pity. After expending a third ball to get the codes for the terminal, we ride the unskippable train ride, then end up just outside the gauntlet. As I am just here to check the vendors for now, I do this stupidly easy exploit of removing the chain through the gap in the door so that I can skip the whole thing. Not to worry, if the traders do indeed have what we need, I'll need to run through the gauntlet anyway, as it's the only way I can hit the triggers to start the fight with Coulter without a suit of power armor to glitch through the walls. The fight is also mandatory, as the monorail, and fast travel for that matter, are both disabled until you become the Overboss after winning the fight. Anyway, what about them traders? Well, I am overjoyed to say two of them, those being Aaron and Shelby, both sell cannonballs in batches of anywhere between 4 and 20 at a time. Better yet, for some reason, all the traders in the market district here immediately refresh their wares the second you leave the cell and come back. So, no more fast travelling and no more waiting. I am free to just keep buying, leaving and re-entering until I run out of caps, and so I do just that. By the time I empty my wallet entirely, I have exactly 138 cannonballs. A staggering improvement over the amount we were hauling around prior to this. Should be more than enough to deal with Coulter as well, so I sprint back to the start of the gauntlet to go through the whole ordeal. For good measure, I did try entering the fight from this side, but again, since I missed some triggers that load engage, Coulter is just completely invulnerable here. Not only can you not hurt him, but everything just phases right through him. It's like he's a ghost. As for the gauntlet itself, it's fine. I don't really enjoy it, I find it rather tedious on repeated run-throughs of Nuka-World, but it's simple enough. The part with rads concerned me due to not having much Rad-X or Rad-Away, but turns out there was enough in the vicinity to counteract a lot of it. Lacking the lockpicking perk to unlock the door meant I had to deal with the Mirelurks, but the Broadsider makes very short work of a lot of them. Also, this part right here before the fight with the turrets and raiders probably could have taken it slow and picked them off one at a time, but I came here with 10 stim packs and figured I could just sprint through it without stopping and keep myself healthy. Since I need to kill Coulter to proceed, that does mean I'll have to use the squirt gun. I view it as a necessary evil though. For one, it does 0 damage anyway, but mainly, if I couldn't come here to get more ammo, I'd probably be stuck conserving almost all of my cannonballs to the point where I'd end up running past almost every single encounter that wasn't mandatory. Kinda like the Caltraps run. The funny thing about this is it turns out I didn't even need to do the glitch with the chain to get the extra ammo first. Yeah, as it turns out, 5 shots was all it took to win the fight. Again, just me underestimating how powerful this thing really seems to be. He did kill me one time, I won't just brush by that, but after that I realised it was as simple as using the water pistol to make him vulnerable, compensating for my horrendous aim with VATS, and then just heal and hide behind the bumper cars until my action points have recharged to repeat the process. I loot the power armor, not for protection, but for money, buy a few more balls with said money, then fast travel back to the Commonwealth now that I'm allowed to do so. When you do, you're right back at the monorail station, so I quickly haul ass as to not be wasted by the gunners. In my random sprinting, I ended up at the Federal ration stockpile and figured it was as good a place as any to start letting loose. Try not to be too alarmed, but considering I am still in the single digits of levels, this overpowered portable cannon eradicates them all with a single shot each. It's quite cathartic after being too concerned to fire the thing for the longest time, I won't lie. Leveled up during this and took a rank in the Fortune Finder perk. I may have guaranteed vendors for the ammo, but it's still pricey, so the more caps I get the better. To that end, I am also swiping everything that even looks remotely valuable. After the entirety of the stockpile is nestled into my pockets, I return to Sanctuary to raid it for even more supplies. The town has a good assortment of healing items as well as junk that can be used for modifications, and since I swiped the first rank in Gun Nut, I can get to upgrade the weapon even further. I know I said before that it only had 3 mods and I didn't think they were that interesting, but upon actually reading them, they might be better than I thought. So when I looked at the multi-shot, what I thought it meant was like, you fired 3 at once, kinda like the big boy upgrade for the Fat Man. But no, what it actually means is you can fire 3 individual cannonballs before having to reload. This effectively triples how many things I can kill in quick succession. Oddly enough, the animation still only shows a single ball being fed into the cannon, but I don't care. Not that it was needed, but this works wonders on quickly dispatching the raiders and Deathclaw in Concord. I even hit the Deathclaw so hard in the leg that I broke it, causing the bone to pierce the skin. Naturally, this allowed an easy follow-up for the win. With the day saved, I send Preston and the gang off to Sanctuary and get to work making it somewhat livable. As I said, I'm not sure if I want to follow their faction to the finale, but I do at the very least want to progress to the point where Ronnie Shaw shows up so I can get the general uniform, because I mean, it'll look perfect with the hat that Ironsides gave me. Of course, that means it's settlement time, and who else comes crying for help first than 10 Pines Bluff? Like clockwork, on the way there, I made a quick detour to rid the satellite station of its raider infestation, as that'll bring another settlement into the Minutemen, and thus cut down on the amount of back and forth with Preston. It's nothing too fancy inside, made sure to pop the legs off a lot of them like Lego figures before anyone could lay a hand on the minigun though. The small multiple explosions appear to have pissed off some of the physics objects lying around, as I got to then bear witness to a battle between a wooden crate and a nearby bin. Unable to help them set aside their differences, despite both being designed to carry objects, I pressed on to 10 Pines, where they threw me a slight curveball by having me trek over to the BADTFL offices. Luckily, I marked it earlier when looking for the Constitution, so at least I don't have to run my way back over. A lot of good supplies in here that'll fetch a high price, not least of which is a fat man. As for the raiders themselves, well, it perhaps was not in their best interest to attempt to fight me when all boxed in such a cramped environment. By this point, I've got better at hitting my targets with the thing. Mostly. The trick is really just to aim at their feet. I keep underestimating the blast radius of it. Once the last of them are dealt with, I finish up the quest and reach level 11, allowing me access to the second rank in the Heavy Gunner perk, increasing the Broadsider's damage from 129 to a whopping 151. To celebrate, I did 2 things. First, I took all the spoils from the multiple raider groups I'd been slaughtering and managed to sell them for enough caps to get me just under 250 cannonballs, and secondly, I then take said balls and bully Swan into an early grave with them. He hit his death animation just fine, then for some reason right after he glitched out, then reverted to a sidewards T-pose. It would be oh so simple to run into Park Street right now and start the main quest by saving Nick, but again, I wanted to complete my outfit. If anything, I saw that as my main goal for the time. Granted, all that means is it's time to grind out settlements. The joy. Preston is trying to send me off to Green Top, but as there is nothing stopping me from recruiting other settlements on my own, I decide to do just that. Got the fastest one out of the way, which was of course to return the locket to the Abernathys. That's one. Next, a bit further south, was Greygarden. Much like when going for the locket, I can bypass the first meeting with the handy settlement by heading straight for the water treatment plant and fixing it up first. The super mutants are mostly all one-shots as well, so nothing too vexing. Although, I made sure to not repeat prior mistakes and singled out the one with the missile launcher first. If anyone's going to blow off my legs, then it's going to be me. The Mirelurks inside, so long as I hit them on their squishier side, also go down to a single cannonball. The few I did hit in the back though had their shells completely destroyed on impact, so any follow-up was a guaranteed curtains. Still never get used to seeing them like this nearly 11 years on, it just looks so unsettling. After I fixed the pumps, despite playing this game as much as I have, I somehow got turned around when I left, and rather than running over to Greygarden, ended up at Oberlin Station. Oh well, it's another one to bring into the fold I suppose, and all I must do is clear out a small batch of raiders who have taken one of the settlers hostage. I take them back, then enlist both them and the robots at Greygarden into the Minutemen. There's a bunch of other random smaller settlements around that I could quickly recruit. I, on the other hand, decided to make my way over to Finch Farm so that I could wipe out the Forged. It's a simple but fun combat quest, plus I know they are typically tougher opponents, and wished to see how they fared. First real group delay on the damage outside of those in Nuka-World, so I'm not complaining. I was shocked to see that some of them took up to 3 cannonballs to put down though. As most things have crumbled to just 1, that's quite the jump in defense all things considered. Tried to be cute when I got to the final room with Slag by hitting him right off the bat in VATS with a crit, but as it turns out, this is one of the very few times in Fallout 4 where control is ripped entirely away from you and all you can do is talk. Like, typically you can still move around in conversations if you want, but not here. This is made doubly aggravating when one of the forged starts melting me and I can do nothing but try and skip through the dialogue as fast as possible. By the time I managed to wrap up the conversation and start the fight, I had less than a quarter of my health. Didn't stop me from finally getting that critical ball to Slag's face though. Rather than use stim packs, I popped one of my Nuka-Cola Quantums as it heals more, heals you faster, and doesn't require an animation so I can fight back while it works. I take the time to clear out the forged first before working my way up to Slag. They're some of the weaker ones ironically when compared to those outside the ironworks. With them out of the way, I faced down Slag and took him out with a broadside of 4 cannonballs, each one inflicting slightly more damage than the last as they stripped away his power armor piece by piece. I gathered any loot in the area, most importantly of all the nearby bobblehead that increases explosive damage, which yes will affect the Broadsider, so it now jumps up to 166 damage per shot. Returning to Abraham, we hand over his son and collect the homestead as a reward. By my account, I should only need one more settlement to open up the quest to retake the castle, so it was off to Greentop finally.
Here's the ransom.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Came face to face with another Deathclaw on the way. Puts up less of a fight than the first one if I'm honest. That said, right when I thought I was in the clear, I was jumped by a Yaoguai, it mildly scaring me like this is the only real pain it inflicted however. Also took note of how the Broadsider seems rather fickle and whether its blast radius hurts the player or not. Like point blank shooting this bear and all is well, but then when I am in the middle of clearing out the raiders in Dunwich, as mentioned prior, it removes my legs in record time. Speaking of the raiders, they were about as resilient as the forged. The little skulls next to the names might seem intimidating, but all that means is that they're far above your own level. Something that really doesn't mean a whole lot when you are the equivalent of a walking galleon. Once the last of them has been wasted, get it, I return to Preston and after he does the usual of congratulating me, he heads off to the castle as expected. Been down and around that way earlier, so no hiccups in meeting back up with him. No point going over the basic Mirelurks, you saw what I did to the ones at the water treatment plant and this cast of crabs is no different. Mama crab though, that's something new. Noticed I said new and not difficult. In fact, I'd say this was probably the least stressful encounter I have ever had with her. I had decent cover and just rained fire from above as she was emerging from the sea. By the time she made it to land, she was as good as dead. With that, I power up the radio station, finishing the quest, then after leaving and waiting 3 days can return to find Ronnie Shaw and see about opening the armory. Down in the tunnels, 3 things of note happen. Firstly, we get some more cannonballs. I may have a consistent way to buy them already, but I'll never turn my nose up at some free samples. Secondly, Sarge takes 6 shots before he combusts, which is about as much as the Mirelurk Queen, so good for him. Then third, finally, but certainly the most important, we can find the corpse of General McGann and upgrade our fit. Oh yeah, now we're ready to broad some sides. Well, as I'm kitted up and look the part, now's as good a time as any to go pay the railroad a visit. Contrary to what 99% of my Fallout 4 runs would have you believe, I do side with the railroad occasionally. My most viewed video is one such example, and today shall be another. I will say it is taking a lot of willpower to not just fire this straight into Desdemona and company the second the lights come on. Naturally, this does lead to tradercraft with Deacon. Again, the temptation to blast them to oblivion is on the up and up, especially when he slowly walks to where we need to be. At least after we give the call sign to the angriest railroad agent that ever lived, we can rush down to the tunnels and get things rolling. First combat encounter with the synths, and yep, they are dismantled like all the others. In their case, quite literally, seeing as the Broadsider was sending their limbs flying, sometimes while still alive, like this poor sap. My accuracy is also substantially better now as I've been increasing my perception skill when I have nothing else worthwhile to throw my perk points into. I use that to help me mop up the final few synths, bank a crit for later, then return to the railroad headquarters for a job well done. Now, this is where I accidentally wasted my time. See, I took the time to do a bunch of the extra fluff quests here for the railroad, like the meal is for Tom, clearing out randomly assigned locations and settlements, as well as helping Old Man Stockton escort and save a runaway. The only thing from all of this I need you to see is when I spent that crit I saved on a random raider. Fun thing about activating crits in Fallout 4 is they will hit 100% of the time, so that leads to situations like this where the cannonball defies the laws of physics like a Looney Tunes skit to make sure it gets the kill. Oh, and this one terminal's password was prod. The jokes there write themselves, so I don't need to. The reason I even bothered with all of this was to get the ballistic weave upgrade so I can up the defenses of my coat, but as it turns out, the general's outfit doesn't get access to that modification, so it was all for naught. It's fine. Not a big deal. Still provides decent protection as is. Alright, enough with that. It was time to stroll through Park Street Station, obliterating all in my path, and even taking the time to get a couple of trick shots in. This was where I began to put points into the demolitions expert skill, by the way, and as a result, the cannon jumped to a staggering 259 damage per shot. Don't care how much meat Skinny's got on his bones, he's no Frank Richards. Nick is saved, so now it's time to B&E Kellogg's first house, followed by a direct assault on his second.
And there he is. The most resilient man in the Commonwealth. Funny. I thought I had that honor.
I've had enough. I'm done with this. It's time for you to die now.
This is on very hard, for the record. I feel like they never expected you to have a steady supply of iron balls for the thing, and now that we do, nothing can stand in my way. Memory dens up, you know how it goes, I do something else while the glorified cutscene plays out. Leads us to the glowing sea as well as one of my first run-ins with the Rust Devils in I don't even know how long. Uniquely named raiders or not, they crumple like all the rest. Similar vibes in traversing the sea, to be honest. Take the time to squish some rad scorpions, they're worth a decent amount of XP, so may as well if they're in the way. Follow them up by triple-shotting the Deathclaw in the fog, then blasting, although not literally, through Virgil's dialogue. In runs where I have next to nothing, green tech is typically where I get humbled to some degree, but as for today, well, this is honestly on par with the Shredder run for how little I had to do to get through. The close quarters environment is really not helping the gunners here, as the number of multi-kills I am able to get with a single cannonball is borderline disgusting. Z247 proves once again he is not worthy of having those last two numbers on his name, as he is anything but an unstoppable, relentless silent assassin. Does fare ever so slightly better than Kellogg though, so praise where it's due, I suppose. Low on ammo but loaded on caps, I then proceeded to spend the next 25 minutes trading for as many cannonballs as my funds would allow. 455. I have 455 shots. Overkill? Most definitely, but it was not just for the main quest. I was going to use the resources of the market that the raiders had provided me to cull them from the face of this amusement park. Started with the pack as there isn't a lot of cover in there and would rather get them by surprise before the dogs tear off my ankles. Goes off mostly without a hitch. I burned through a fair number of stim packs, but the fun thing is, I have not bought a single healing item this entire run and yet have over 40 of these. Simply put, the higher level you get, the stronger variants of enemies you face, and those stronger versions always tend to carry stim packs on them. Seeing as I one-shot damn near the lot of them, this allows me to take their stims as they don't get the opportunity to use them. So yeah, the pack get put down easy enough, then it was on to the operators. Quite the opposite, as the number of things to hide behind makes this a joke. Just bombard them with as much as I can, then crouch down to reload, resulting in a near never-ending torrent of iron balls that bring about the demise of their entire sub-faction. Last but certainly least are the Disciples, or rather just poor lonesome Nisha. No clue why she was out here all by her lonesome, but hey, makes the final hit a lot faster on my end. With that, the open season is over, I get my reward, purchase a few more cannonballs for the road, then went back to the main quest. So, the fact I just demonstrated how effortless it was to clear out Nuka-World, I think it should come as no surprise that the rest of the main quest went by without a hitch. Quick notes then. I helped the railroad to build the teleporter, agreed but lied to help father, started planting the seeds for the Roombas to take over by supplying them with lasers and nuclear warheads, picked many a fight with the Brotherhood of Steel which resulted in them being humbled in record time when I quickly went from fending them off at mass fusion, to getting a strike on them at the Old North Church, followed by a one-man assault on their home base where I personally saw to the demise of each and every soldier. Although, when I recount this part of the tale, I'd much prefer if you remembered it like so. All that left was the nuclear option, and as I, and the rebels I supplied with weapons are armed to the teeth, it goes down as perhaps one of my smoothest runs of the mission yet. Highlight of which was this sick 360 no-scope I got on Father before the end. We teleport out, press the button, blowing the Institute sky high, finishing the game and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout 4 with only the Broadsider. There is a strange difficulty curve on this one. Annoying at first simply getting the thing and trying to find ammo, But once I came back after that half a year break and the prospect of Nuka-World opened, as well as perks to earn more caps, it very quickly snowballed into one of the biggest power trips of a build I've ever done in Fallout 4. I didn't even mention, but by the end I killed so many things I was nearly level 30. I think the only other 2 Fallout 4 runs where that happened may have been the Kill Everything run, obviously, and the Lincoln run. Yet this one took nowhere near as long to record as those. I'm not sure what video is going to be up next. I've been working on a Skyrim video, a New Vegas video, and an Oblivion video lately, as well as a non-Bethesda game video. So like genuinely, even I have zero clue which of those is going to be coming up after this. I legit might just spin a wheel to find out. Regardless, that's going to be the end of the challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to run these videos out fairly frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.